Oh, they noticed it, didn't they? They saw everything. The way you stood there without moving. No fear. No raised voice. No panic. You didn't even blink when they tried to embarrass you in front of everyone. And now they're lying awake, wondering who you really are, what battles you've already survived, and what turned you into someone this unshakable. Welcome back, you calm, powerful, impossible to rattle soul. Or maybe I should say welcome to the moment they realized they challenged the wrong person. Because your reaction, or more accurately, your lack of reaction, was not weakness. It was strategy. Silent power. The kind that needs no weapons. The kind that needs no shouting. The kind that makes people question every judgment they ever made about you. Let's go back to that moment for a second. The disrespect was loud, intentional, meant to break you in front of everyone watching. They threw that insult like a bomb, expecting chaos. They expected anger. They expected tears. They expected you to fall apart or fight back. At the very least, they wanted some sign that you were easy to shake like everyone else. But what did you do? You smiled. Not a fake smile. Not an uncomfortable smile. A smile that said, "I've faced worse than you, and you're nowhere near important in my story." You held eye contact. Not hostile. Not weak. Just steady, calm, and fully present. Strangely calm. Fully present. And in that silence, in those 5 seconds that felt like forever, you became a puzzle they'll spend years trying to understand. Here's what they don't get, and what is bothering them the most right now. Ordinary people react. Ordinary people defend themselves. Ordinary people either explode in anger or shrink in embarrassment. But you did neither. You took their disrespect without giving it power, then moved forward like nothing happened. Like they never mattered at all. And that calmness, that control, that level of indifference, it doesn't come from reading quotes or watching motivational videos. That comes from pain turned into peace. That comes from survival lessons mistaken for confidence. That comes from carrying a heavy past that made today's problems feel small. They wanted drama, but instead they witnessed a lesson in emotional control from someone who has clearly faced battles they could never understand. And now they're creating theories. Oh yes, right now they're talking in group chats, replaying that moment piece by piece. Did you see how they didn't react? That's not normal. What do you think they've been through? Some believe you're secretly dangerous, that you have a hidden past, that quiet people are the ones to watch carefully. Others think you're broken inside, hurt so deeply that nothing reaches you anymore. And the rest? They're simply nervous because they realize something important. They cannot control someone who doesn't seek their approval. They cannot break someone who has already fallen apart and rebuilt themselves stronger. They can't scare someone who has already faced real darkness and survived it. Before you even walked out of that room, you had already become a story they would talk about later. But let's talk about what that moment truly meant, because this is no longer about them. This is about you. That calmness, that intense composure, it didn't come from comfort. Did it? Came from repetition, from experience. From years of learning the hard way, years of swallowing your pride, years of staying quiet when you wanted to speak, years of taking hit after hit until your mind adjusted, until your body learned that reacting often costs more than silence, until your spirit realized that some people do not deserve your energy. You didn't simply choose to be this calm. Life shaped you into it. Shaped by betrayals that taught you trust must be earned. Shaped by humiliation that taught you real dignity is often quiet. Shaped by losses that taught you attachment can be painful when given too freely. They keep wondering who you used to be. But the real question is different. Who did you have to become just to survive? Because this version of you, the one who stands steady while chaos happens around you, is not weakness. It is protection. It is armor built from every night you cried alone, every moment you held in your pain, every time you wanted to fight back but knew it would only make things worse. You learned that the loudest kind of power is silence. You learned that sometimes the strongest reply is no reply at all. You learned that the greatest revenge is becoming someone they cannot understand, cannot predict, and cannot damage. Now you move through life with deep emotional discipline, while they are still acting like children throwing tantrums. And trust me, that is what keeps them awake at night. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you completely figured out. The quiet one, the kind one, the person who never creates problems. The one they believed they could disrespect without consequences because you never reacted before. But that moment, that short 5-second pause where you stood there and took their poison without letting it touch you, destroyed everything they thought they knew. Because now they're realizing something important. You were never quiet because you were weak. You were quiet because you were observing. You were never kind because you were foolish. You were kind because you chose mercy over showing what you were truly capable of. You were never distant because you were afraid. You stayed away because you knew some battles are beneath your growth. And now the guesses are getting bigger, aren't they? Some think you must be trained to stay calm under pressure. Some think you were raised in chaos, so ordinary disrespect feels small compared to what you've already survived. Some think you're quietly strategic, waiting patiently and choosing the right moment to respond. And the most paranoid ones think you're numb, broken beyond repair. A person hurt so many times that pain no longer reaches you. But they're all wrong. Every one of them missed the truth. You are not weak. You are not empty. You are something far more powerful. You are healed, or at least healing. And people who heal no longer feel the need to prove themselves. They don't need to defend every insult. They don't need everyone to understand them. They simply exist, calm, steady, difficult to shake, hard to break. Let me tell you what they see now when they look at you. They see someone whose eyes stay the same when insulted. Someone whose breathing remains steady when attacked. Someone whose posture doesn't change when challenged. Feels strange to them. It unsettles them. Because that kind of calm suggests you have faced storms, survived pain, and overcome battles they cannot imagine. You are not playing the game they're playing. In fact, you're not even standing on the same field anymore. You're living from a higher level of awareness, where ego has little value, where opinions are background noise, where disrespect is just another ordinary day. And that is what makes you unpredictable. That is what makes you strong. That is what makes you something they cannot figure out. But here's where it becomes really interesting. While they keep guessing about your past, they're missing what is happening right now. Every day you choose not to react, you become stronger. Every insult that fails to shake you builds resistance. Every time they try to get inside your mind and fail, you prove to yourself that you are no longer the person who could be broken by words. You are not hiding your feelings. You are not pretending everything is fine. You are genuinely at peace because you have already survived things far worse. You have already lost, felt, and endured more than they could imagine. So what is a little disrespect from someone who doesn't even know your real journey? What is a cheap insult from someone who has never walked through the kind of fire you faced? It is nothing, less than nothing. Just background noise in a life that has already fought hard battles and returned stronger. They want to know your story so badly, don't they? They want the details, the pain, the moment that changed you from an ordinary person into someone this calm and unreadable. But you're not going to give them that, are you? Because your pain is not for their entertainment. Your survival is not a mystery for them to study. Your past is not something you owe to people who only noticed you once you stopped reacting to their nonsense. They think they deserve an explanation, but the truth is simple. They do not even deserve your time. They only get the version of you that arrives, handles what must be done, and walks away without attachment. They get the outside version, the calm face, the steady energy, the unbothered attitude. But the deeper parts of you, the scars, the pain, the nights you rebuilt yourself piece by piece, that belongs to you. That is sacred. That is not for people who suddenly care only because they cannot understand you. And let's be honest, they are not asking because they truly care about you. They are asking because your calmness disturbs their chaos. Your composure reveals their instability. Your silence makes their noise obvious. When you refuse to join the drama, when you refuse to react to their provocations, when you deny them the emotional response they desperately want, you become a mirror. And what do they see in that mirror? They see their own insecurity, their own hunger for approval, their own need to feel strong by trying to make others feel weak. And the hardest part for them is this: it does not work on you. It hasn't worked on you. And the moment they realize they have no control over you, that is the part they cannot handle. That is what fuels all these theories. That is why they are so obsessed with your past. Because they believe if they can discover what once broke you, they might learn how to break you again. But here is the beautiful, painful truth they are about to understand. You are not strong because nothing difficult happened to you. You are strong because so much already did. You are not calm because life was easy on you. You are calm because life was so hard that ordinary problems no longer shake you the same way. You are not unbothered because you do not care. You are unbothered because you cared deeply, lost deeply, suffered deeply, and still survived. You are the result of every betrayal that taught you to depend on yourself. Every heartbreak that taught you to value yourself. Every failure that taught you persistence. Every loss that taught you how to let go. You are living proof of what happens when someone refuses to let yesterday control today. And that frightens people who are still trapped inside their own stories. Now they watch you more closely than ever. Every conversation is analyzed. Every response is studied. Every calm moment is questioned. How do they stay like that? What is the secret? Why doesn't it affect them? And the funniest part is this: you are not even trying. You are not acting calm. You are not pretending not to care. You're not pretending anymore. This is simply who you have become. This is what survival looks like after the storm. This is what healing looks like when it happens quietly, without attention, without applause, without anyone praising your progress. You rebuilt yourself in darkness, and now you walk in the light. People cannot understand how something so strong could come from something once so damaged. They do not realize that diamonds are formed under pressure. They do not realize that steel is shaped in fire. They do not realize that the calmest water often hides the greatest depth. They only see the surface, and they are uneasy about what lies beneath it. Now let's return to that moment, because I want you to understand how powerful it truly was. When they disrespected you, they expected a performance. They wanted an audience. They chose their words carefully. They delivered the insult with confidence and cruelty, fully expecting to embarrass you. And for one brief second, everyone waited for your reaction. This was supposed to be your breaking point. This was supposed to be the moment you finally lost control, finally showed emotion, finally proved you were easy to shake like everyone else. But instead, you gave them nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even recognition. You looked at them the way someone looks at a child having a tantrum, with a little pity and a little boredom. Then you calmly returned to what you were doing, as if they were nothing more than a small distraction, a buzzing fly not even worth chasing away. That moment changed everything, because in that instant you quietly rewrote the rules. You showed them that their words carry no real weight, that their opinions don't define you, and that their attempts to provoke you don't land the way they expect. Without saying a single word, you took away the power they thought they had. You didn't fight them, you simply didn't enter the fight at all. And that kind of win doesn't make noise, but it lasts. That's the kind of shift people remember. That's the kind of response that forces others to realize you are operating on a completely different level. They were trying to pull you into a reaction, but you were never truly in the game they were playing. Now they are trying to recover that control. They are pushing harder, testing more, becoming louder and more obvious in their attempts to get something from you. Anything at all. But what they don't understand is simple. The more they push, the more they reveal. They reveal that your reaction matters to them more than they want to admit. They need your attention. They need your response. They need proof that they can still affect you. Without that, they are just noise with no direction, performing for someone who has already stopped watching. And while they keep trying to pull you back into that space, you've already stepped out of it. Your focus isn't there anymore. It's on your own growth, your own direction, your own peace. And that indifference, real, effortless indifference, is what unsettles them the most. Not because you're fighting back, but because you don't even see the need to. That's the real shift. That's the quiet power they don't know how to interpret. Because your calmness doesn't just feel like personality. It feels like history. It feels like someone who has been through enough to stop reacting to things that don't matter. And that's what they're actually reacting to. Not you, but what you represent. You represent someone who has learned emotional control the hard way. Someone who didn't pick it up from advice or inspiration, but from experience. From situations that demanded survival over expression. From moments where reacting wasn't safe, wasn't useful, or wasn't worth it. So when you stand there composed under pressure, it doesn't look ordinary to them. It looks unfamiliar. It looks unreadable. It looks like control they can't influence or predict. And anything they can't predict makes them uneasy. That's why they keep trying to figure you out. Because if they can define you, they think they can limit you. But the truth is simpler. You don't fit neatly into their understanding of people anymore. And that's what they struggle with most, the uncertainty. The possibility that your limits aren't where they assume. That your reactions aren't accessible on demand. That your breaking point, if it even exists in the way they imagine, is not something they can find through pressure or words. Because what they're really sensing is this: you've already lived through enough to stop being easily shaken by things that once might have mattered. And now, their influence ends where your awareness begins. There's nothing they can say that you haven't already said to yourself in your darkest moments. Nothing they can do that comes close to what you've already lived through and survived. And that's why their words don't land the way they expect. Not because you're trying to be untouchable, but because life already taught you how to endure what they're only attempting. And that changes everything in how these situations play out. When you stay calm, you remove the reward they were expecting. No reaction means no satisfaction. No emotional spike means no validation. No breakdown means no victory story they can repeat later. What they get instead is something they didn't prepare for: silence that doesn't bend. And silence like that creates confusion. It forces people to sit with their own assumptions. They start replaying the moment, trying to find the trigger that never came. They question their approach. They question their impact. They question whether they misread the entire situation. But the real tension comes from uncertainty, because they can't clearly label what they're seeing. They don't know if your calmness comes from confidence or emotional distance. They don't know if your silence is strength or protection. And when people can't categorize you, they tend to overthink you. Still, the most important part is simpler than all their theories. You didn't win by performing better. You simply didn't step into the role they expected you to play. The real question they can't stop circling is exactly that. Are you untouchable because you've healed, or because you've already been broken so deeply that nothing new reaches you? And the truth is, they can't land on a clean answer. That uncertainty is what keeps them stuck. Because if you're strong, then they've misjudged someone who is far beyond their reach. And if you're broken, then they have to face the uncomfortable reality of their own behavior. Either way, the version of the story that makes them comfortable doesn't survive. But what actually changed in that moment wasn't you proving anything. It was them revealing something. The way they chose to act in public. The way they tried to create a reaction. The way they assumed control over how someone else would respond. That tells more about them than it ever could about you. And your response, or lack of it, simply didn't give them the outcome they were expecting. No emotional payoff. No reaction to frame their narrative. No easy win to repeat later. Just silence that didn't cooperate. After that, things don't stay the same. People start recalibrating how they see you. Not because you announced anything, but because you didn't behave the way they predicted. And when people can't predict someone, they start paying closer attention. Some interpret it as strength. Some interpret it as distance. Some even interpret it as warning. But what they're really reacting to is the fact that you no longer participate in dynamics that rely on emotional control from others. And that's where the shift actually is. You're no longer defined by how people expect you to respond. You're becoming the person people overthink without meaning to. Not because you demand attention, but because you don't follow the patterns they expect. And when someone breaks a pattern, people naturally start filling in the blanks with theories. But the truth underneath all of that is less dramatic than they imagine, and more powerful. What changed isn't that you became mysterious overnight. It's that you stopped giving automatic reactions to things that used to control your energy. You removed the feedback loop they were used to getting. So the person who tried to provoke you didn't actually lose a battle in some grand sense. They just didn't get the response they were counting on. And in social situations, especially emotional ones, that absence feels louder than any reaction would have. That's why attention shifts. Not because you engineered it, but because people are naturally drawn to what they can't easily predict. When someone doesn't react in a familiar way, others start analyzing, guessing, projecting meaning onto silence. But here's the part that gets overlooked in these narratives. You didn't become stronger by doing less in a strategic way. You simply stopped overinvesting energy in things that don't deserve it. That's not a performance, it's a boundary. And the real transformation isn't that people are talking. It's that you're no longer relying on their interpretation of you to define your state of mind. Yes, you went through something that changed you at a fundamental level. But the part that actually defines you isn't what happened to you. It's what you did after it happened. The real story isn't the breaking point. It's the rebuilding. It's how pain turned into awareness. How experience turned into boundaries. How moments that once hurt you ended up teaching you where to stop letting people in. They're searching for the origin of your calmness like it's a single event they can pinpoint. But they're missing the bigger picture, the slow evolution that came after. The gradual shift where reactions became less automatic, where silence became more intentional, where peace started to matter more than proving a point. And that's what they don't fully understand. This isn't mystery for mystery's sake. It's growth that didn't need an audience. Because what they see as calmness is really the result of learning, over time, what deserves your energy and what doesn't. What deserves access to you and what doesn't. What deserves a response and what doesn't even need acknowledgement. So while they're focused on what changed you, the real answer is quieter than they expect. You changed how you relate to everything that used to control you.